Hello and welcome to the Is It Fast podcast. I'm your host, Timo Albus Daly. Joining me today is the first in a number of unique guests who have all recently competed together in the same off-road race, Rally Jameel. For those that don't know, this is an all-female rally that takes place once a year in the heart of Saudi Arabia and encourages women from all walks of life, not just racing, to come and try their hand at motorsport. Carina Munte is one such individual, and she and I caught up a little earlier this year, just after the rally had finished. We talked about why she wanted to get involved in this race to begin with, how she and her co-driver met, what she does when she's not in the racing seat, mini spoiler, it's pretty cool, and a whole bunch more. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi Carina, thank you very much for being here today. First of all, how are you?
I'm very good. Just came back from Rally Jameel and back to work intensively as there's an upcoming race coming. So, yeah,
I say no days off for you.
no, those are very rare.
We'll get to the rally in a minute because I definitely want to talk about that. But I am always intrigued to see how people first got interested in motorsports. So, what was it for you?
Right. Well, for me, it's a very long time ago that I got interested and I got the sense of motorsport. So I was very young. I was studying still. I was in university. And I started working for Formula One. It was just a temporary job on the weekends, temporary job. So it was Formula One. Well, Toyota was still in Formula One, just to explain how long ago it
Okay,
happened.
that helps with the time period.
Yes, exactly. And afterwards, I continued. I finished my studies and I started working full time for an agency in London. And obviously, it's such a special and it's a very special industry, and not only because already sports in general, I believe that is a particular industry that only when you work inside or when you have something to do with it you understand actually what it actually means, the world of the sports. You meet so many different people, you meet so many impressive people that you have around you. Of course, there's the athletes, so like in motorsport, the drivers, the riders. But yeah, it's just it depends on the kind of person you are, I think, as well, because it's an industry which gives you a lot of adrenaline, no matter in which job role you are. And I
You
think
get
that for
caught
some,
up in the whole excitement of it.
you are caught up in the whole excitement, you're caught up in the event organization excitement, because that on its own is a race. It's a race that starts months before the event, and then the closer it gets, it's literally like it's a race. It's a race exactly like you have the Formula One races. I like to compare it because it's this you have those hours of event where everything has to go seamless. You have a problem, you need to pit stop and to find a solution. So it's a little bit the same. But yeah, it's a very it's addictive. I can call it addictive, the motorsport world. And then I started working for Formula E. I was one of the first employees actually of Formula E. And I helped develop actually the entire concept, which is also beyond the racetrack. And 10 years later, now you can see where Formula E is. So Formula E will always be, let's say, my family, because I spent so much time with our teams, with the entire ecosystem. We were traveling a lot. And afterwards, I mean, things move forward and you develop in different ways. And I decided to start a family as well. So I thought that, that rhythm can no longer be in the same way, but I'm still somebody who cannot stay still. I've always been like
I'm
that.
noticing
So
this.
yeah, so I decided to, together with my business partner, we decided to start an electric motorcycle championship called the FIM Explorer World Cup. And obviously bringing all our knowledge from what we have learned from Formula E. And we saw an opportunity because this didn't exist yet, except for Moto E that is on track. For off-road, this didn't exist yet. So we launched ourselves in this amazing adventure since almost 3 years now. Now we are in the second season. But as you can imagine, as a startup and as a new motorsport series, it's a lot. It's a lot, but still loving it and enjoying it and discovering new things every single day. And yeah, and then I am surrounded, even my closest friends, we all work in motorsport, or even though the ones that don't work in motorsport, they are passionate somehow about it. So we have a lot of things in common.
So many different tangents I want to go off on that based on what you were saying there. So bear with me for a second. But Toyota, first of all, what was your role with that?
With Toyota,
Mm.
I was working in hospitality. So I was working in hospitality. I was supporting the management of the VIP group that was coming at every single race from Toyota. I was 19, so it was perfect. And then, even little projects like this, having 15 high-level management VIPs from Toyota coming, there's so much to organize about them, make sure that everybody gets exactly what they need. So yeah, this was
I suppose you don't get that kind of training in hospitality with other hospitality jobs. I feel like it's Formula One, so it is the highest level of everything in a lot of ways.
Exactly. So you learn a lot as you do. There's certain people, who really need like a training. I'm more the kind of person that I'm learning as I go, and I'm trying to improve myself, as I go, and I see my mistakes and so on. So this is how I always learned more and more things. And therefore, then it was simply, small project management tasks and then until it became like huge. So now, I organized events for 40,000 people.
It's expanded a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started with Formula E, together with a colleague of mine, Girly Tava, we were responsible for developing the entire concept of the hospitality, of the gala dinners, which were at that time charity gala dinners, for the after parties, for the secondary hospitalities, and for the fan zone. At the beginning of Formula E, the fan zone was almost inexistent because we had like the few sponsors that were there that were activating, but it wasn't like a real fan zone.
It was still a startup in a lot of ways back then. I mean, you think everyone focuses on the fact that it was two cars rather than one, but there was so much more to it outside of that. It's like, yeah, that's probably the main thing that catches everyone. I was like, oh my God, two cars. But like you say, fan zone is such an intrinsic part of Formula E now that you wouldn't even think about what that looked like to start off with.
Definitely. And I think it's like, I mean, you have all these people coming to the races, so they have to have something to do. So again, I had to learn and to think, okay, I put myself in the foot, of a fan coming to the race. What are my expectations? So what are my expectations? What do I want to see? So started developing the whole concept, and slowly but steady, the team started to increase as well. So we started to put together more of a hospitality team so that they can take over all that part that was taking a huge amount of time, to organize all these side events. Because for us, the race was finished. For certain teams, okay, so the event is done, like we crossed the finish line, all fine. But actually for the rest of us, like for Girly and myself, we were still continuing, because 2 hours after the drivers, have crossed the finish line, we had a gala dinner for 800 people to make sure that it goes well. And after that, everybody was going to the after party. And then, 24 hours are going. So it's a lot. So therefore, we found a way, to get more people. When Formula E started to grow, we had like more people dealing and taking from us, certain areas that were demanding a lot. And I decided to concentrate on the development of the fan zone. So I really saw potential, especially that you have to think that was like 10 years ago, 8 years ago. People didn't know so much about the electrification, the e-mobility, the cool part of it. So how do you bring this closer to the people? How do you convince them that it's actually cool? So I thought about, different entertaining solutions, in the fan zone, how to push and motivate the existing partners to activate in an interactive way, so that really you come with your family, because that's the beauty of electric. You can come with your baby, with your toddler, with your children, and they're not bothered by the smell, by the noise, etc. They can actually have a wonderful day, but they have to have something to do. You cannot just have them like looking around. So we were starting to have more and more entertaining activities for the entire family. Then starting to involve local startups from every single place where we were going. So that's
Well, that's
how.
what I was going to say. You've got this global aspect to it that what may work really well in one country doesn't necessarily guarantee you is going to work in another one. And you've got to not start again from the ground up, but you've got to be, like you were saying, learn on the job very quickly. It's like, oh, weirdly, that's not working here, but it works there. But there's this third location where, for some reason, we need to do things differently. And then just figuring all of that out as you go along, because you can't know that beforehand.
Yes, exactly. And then obviously, we have some local teams. So the entertainment even that we were offering, it had to be something that resonates to the local people, but also attracts international people. So to give the example of Paris, in Paris, there's obviously a lot of French inhabitants, but there's a massive amount of foreign people that are living in there and that they came to our races. So we had to find something, that is French, but still, resonates to everybody else. And France, Paris is a very good example. It started the first year, behind, closed doors. It was really like a tough event to put on because of various reasons, to be honest. Like it's first time in the very heart of the city, a lot of lack of knowledge, about what's happening around the environment and so on. But then the second year, it was amazing. You could see people coming in the morning and literally spending the whole day entertained, learning more, participating in various activities, getting more and more interested, about the industry, about e-mobility, about Formula E. So that was actually really, really cool to see at the end of the day what a success that was. And as a, proof of success, I was very happy to when Allianz came in, because Allianz as a company, one of the reasons why they came inside Formula E is because they really wanted to represent this evolution and innovation and development of the e-mobility. So they took the naming rights of the e-village, which was an achievement, to have a company like Allianz coming and saying like, oh, we want this fan zone, knowing where you started, with two fan booths, like one with DHL and one with
stalls.
can have a place where to buy water, in the first one. And 3 years later, you have Allianz taking the name rights of this amazing project, which just kept on developing. And so it was amazing because also after I left, the team that was that I left behind, they really continued this legacy of always wanting to do more, always wanting to improve, to have a better performance of the e-village, until it really became a place where people love it. So it's that was really fantastic.
No, it's very intriguing because you see how that changes in something like Formula One, as older championship as it is, but constantly needing to innovate there to try and stay relevant. And then Formula E, it's like, why would it be different? But it's kind of similar but adjacent sort of thing of, in theory, a lot of similar stuff should work, but you've got to approach it from a completely different angle because of the electrification of it, and because when it started out, it was a relatively new thing for the general population. And then again, what some people in one country may know a lot about it for whatever reason, they may not in another, and you've got to juggle all these things to figure that out. And was that then kind of the inspiration slash the niche aspect of Formula E, the kind of reason you wanted to start the IME or E Explorer Championship? Was that kind of you thinking, oh, this kind of worked here, it'd be interesting to see if we could make it work with bikes as well?
Yes, it's I was a little bit naive at the beginning when we started the project, because Valentin, my co-founder, he's coming from the two wheels industry, so he knows very well this industry. Me, I always worked, with the four wheels, so I worked in the WEC as well, and everything that is four wheels.
Yeah.
So when I discovered the two wheels, I was quite surprised to see how different it is. It's still the same motorsport vibe, but it's still a different sort of community, which I absolutely adore, because somehow it's closer. Sometimes it's more united. But definitely, a lot of knowledge that I acquired during Formula E and my other experiences. I'm putting everything into eExplorer because even though we are a startup, I know that the opportunity and the sort of uh, level at which this championship can go can be huge because it's again, it relates to a lot of people. There's so many riders in the world. Doesn't matter if it's like dirt bikes or not. It's all about like two wheels e-mobility. It provides entertainment. It brings communities together. There's a legacy behind every single thing that we're doing. So
So is it
yes,
reassuring for you then as well to be looking at this as a startup, but then seeing Formula E and the success there and Extreme E is like the off-road version of that being such a success that you're thinking, well, you're just filling in the gap in the market with the bikes. There's no reason this couldn't work as well.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there is this thought behind, of course, and I look at how far Formula E, Extreme E have gone, and I do sincerely have like the conviction that eExplorer can get to the same point. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not something that everybody can say, oh, let's start a racing series. But with a lot
There
of
seems to be more appetite for it though, and that I mean, you see that with the E1 series as well for the boats. It's a little bit different, but it's kind of filling out the different modes of transport, and it's like people seem keen to do it, and not just fans as well, but drivers and companies from different disciplines getting involved. So I mean, you see like Sam's going from two wheels to four in Extreme E, and there's that kind of crossover, and then maybe there's some drivers that have only ever done four wheels, like you say, but maybe they're intrigued by this concept and like, well, it seems like a good point to try this, and that could only help you then in that regard.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously, everything that is electrification at the moment, it's getting like it's really getting a huge push. People are looking in general, for more, our generation and the younger generation is also looking for more sustainable means of transportation, whether it's air, land, doesn't matter. So this can only move forward, and it's not only electric. In a few years there will be other technologies, other options, but still based on a sustainable way of treating this planet, and on us commuting, and on us as individuals reacting in a positive way. This doesn't mean that the combustion sort of industry should disappear, but it's just, from my perspective, it just means finding solutions to to decrease like the CO2 emissions as much as possible. And there will always be people who will say like, yes, but electric is also consuming. Yes, it's true. I'm not going
But
to
it's
say
about
no,
finding that balance and trying to push the technology on all fronts forward so that you can kind of get the
but
best of
give it
everything.
a chance, give it a chance before, like even the sound pollution. We've been in Osaka for the first race just a few weeks ago in February, and we were walking in the street, like in one of the busiest cities in the world. Yeah, 10 million inhabitants, like it's crazy. It was so silent. All cars are electric and hybrid. It was so silent. You could hear yourself on the street. Nobody was honking. It was all like you don't have, these noises that are like um, just, it's too much. And in certain cities, I mean, in still huge cities around the world where they literally like don't care, and they don't. So, little by little, we just try to conquer the people's mindset.
Well, that's how you have to do it. And I'm intrigued then as well because you've come from this whole career of behind the scenes work then, and then Rally Jameel comes along and you decide, I want to get in the driving seat. What made you want to make that jump? Because that's a bit of a jump.
It is a jump, yeah. So this was a little bit of my secret. When I grow old, I want to do this. So I've never dreamt about being a driver or anything. No, I actually um, I always wanted to do a rally. I loved the adrenaline in it. But obviously, I would be too scared to do like a speed rally. That to be very clear. But then 3 years ago, a friend of mine, Izzy, so
Mhm.
Isabella, yeah, she told me like, listen, there's this new project. It's all women rally. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. in the same time that this was happening, I was just starting e-Explorer, so it didn't work, for me to participate. But I also said, you go first, and then I will see later if it works. Last year again, it didn't work, and then my friend Constance, we were having dinner and we were talking, and I was talking about this rally, how amazing it is, and the fact that you have only women involved, and that you go into this amazing undiscovered country like Saudi Arabia. How would it be? And then that evening we decided that we are going to rally Jameel. That was last year, I don't know, maybe in September or something. So we sent the application. We didn't know yet who's going to be the driver, who's going to be the co-driver. In all honesty, we didn't know, how the navigation works. So we started studying hard. We actually looked at some navigation courses to understand what the road book looks like. How do you use the Stella system? What would be, like the technical issues that we may encounter, like changing a wheel, as simple as that. I've
So
never
you don't
changed.
get it stuck out in the desert when you've got something
It's
as simple as
embarrassing, but
that.
I've never changed the wheel in my life. So I was like, if this happens and in the middle of nowhere, I mean,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and this as a side note, when I came back, my husband said, like, okay, so now you know how to change a wheel. And I'm like, we have a Tesla. We just called them and it's fine. So, yeah. No, but joke apart. So yeah, we registered, we studied really hard to be, because then I started to see the teams which are starting to be uploaded. And then I saw Dakar co-pilot, Dakar pilot, Dakar. And I'm like, wait a second, what is this? Then, of course, there were some new teams as well, but still there were teams of women who were coming, living in Dubai, for example. So they had the training of driving on the sand, which, I drive in Germany and at the mountain at the most. So
not much sand up there.
no, but I always love driving, and in general, I had quite a good reputation of being a good driver. But again, on the road is one thing, in the middle of the desert, it's another thing. So yeah, we got accepted. We went to Rally Jameel. It was, I'm still coming from the cloud. I'm still on that path. I came back like 4 days ago, and I'm still like,
That's good though, if you're still up there on that high.
it was the best experience that I could have done. It was incredible. Another thing that I said when I came back, I'm like, I have a lot of friends who are going one time a year to Thailand for a yoga retreat, and they do the detox and they eat healthy and they just, deconnect completely. For me, that was my Rally Jameel week.
Well, so is this what this is going to become in the future now?
Yes, because for me, I've done a detox. I was eating super healthy. Every day I was under adrenaline for like 8 hours a day. So I felt like smile on my face. I've met the most incredible women that I could have met. I mean, it's unbelievable, the stories that these women have, and nobody knows, about them. And I said to the organizer, you should do a Netflix documentary on these women because they're absolutely unbelievable. Every single woman has a unique, impressive, and absolutely outstanding story of her life, whether she's 25 or whether she's 45. So see this community of women that are reunited because of one passion, motorsport, that was something incredible. So yeah, and then from a practical perspective, the first day was hard, and actually even the Dakar co-pilots and everything, they said like it was a really hard day. The first 2 years, they were not as hard as this one. So first 2 years, it was more like, okay, we start, we begin, but now it was really, some of the stages are actually used in the Dakar, just to explain, so there wasn't, yeah. So it took a little bit of time to understand, to get used to the car, to get used to, driving in sand. But then afterwards, from the driving perspective, I managed it very well. We didn't have a puncture for 4 days, and I didn't get stuck in the sand. So for me, it's already
that's all you can ask for, really, isn't it?
Exactly. And then we just started. So first day we were 28 out of 55, which, for rookies, that was really good. And then we ended up in the overall number 14 out of 55, which I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah, it should be. Again, it's kind of first rally
I have to
in
say
that
that there
kind of
were a lot of.
environment and you just get in the top 20, like, yeah, no problems.
Exactly. And then I have to say that because we were talking so much with the other women and which have been doing rallies for a long time, we also asked for tips like, guys, what do you do if this happens? What do you do if this happened? What do you do if you go through water? Like, is there something in particular that from the driving or from the whatever? And everybody was so open and giving advices, which I've used all their advices and they work perfectly. So this is where I mean that the community and the link that we shared between each other was absolutely fantastic.
I'm going to say then, you kind of predicting my next questions here, but it's perfect. It's nice to have that. How important is the Rally Jameel then as an event, and what would you tell other women who are looking at it and thinking about competing, but aren't sure if they want to get involved, but because they might not have any experience, because like you say, this is your first thing, and you just kind of thought this could be fun, and you kind of drove in there. What would you say to them? And like, yeah, how important is this as an event?
A woman who already thinks about going to a rally, that means that she dares. So dare all the way, up to the end, because there's
Mm.
nothing that you can lose, actually. You can only have the most incredible experience of your life. It's just like dare and go beyond, the standard. Go beyond the standard. It's just like it's just the for me personally, as I mentioned, like I think 3 times until now, it has been one of the most amazing experiences. Without any experience, without any sort of background of rally driver, my co-pilot as well, not at all. Me, at least I work in motorsport. She's a medical student. So,
I was going to
you
ask
know,
about her at some point to see, because I wasn't sure what the dynamic was there, if you knew each other beforehand, but it's just two friends deciding, let's go and do a rally.
I will explain you afterwards from where we know each other. So, it doesn't matter what your day-to-day routine is. I'm mostly, if I'm not at events, I'm sitting, at my home and I'm working. But dare to do things and live your life. This is where I was telling myself, I remember it was the second day and I had this view around me. I was like, I'm in a film set. This is unbelievable. And I said, like, this is what it means to live your life. Because we keep on, repeat, get up, work, go to bed, get up, work, go to bed. Then you have your job, whatever that is. I do events. So for me, it's like repeat and repeat and repeat. You have to go left and right sometimes in order to really live your life. It's so short. Live your life and try anything that you ever wanted to do. Just try it. This is for me, this is one of my motivations why I went to Rally Jameel. I always wanted to do a rally. I said, it's never going to be the right time. I'm always like on 50 calls a day. I always have so much to do. But I'm like, no, if I don't say yes now, I'm going to be, I don't know how old. And then I'm going to say, oh no, now it's too late. So now it's a perfect moment. So I said, like, absolutely no regret and just make time for it and go. You will never
No wonder
regret
you
anything.
feel so kind of relaxed and detoxed from everything as well, then,
Yes.
because like you say, 50 calls a day and that routine, you were like none of that for a whole week. It's perfect.
Exactly. And you get another perspective and you meet new people. You meet people, with different backgrounds, it's just like, it's so mind opening, which I
Mhm.
find it amazing. And this is why I loved working in industries where I travel the world and I meet people from everywhere, because we tend to be stuck in our own perspectives, in our own ideas, in our own world, without actually taking in consideration what is the perspective of somebody else who grew up in a completely different or worked or experienced a completely different environment. And this is where I think that we as humans in general, we need to learn a little bit to think not only from our perspective, but from everybody else's. And this is like Rally Jameel for me has been a mind-opening sort of experience.
And like you say, where else would you meet those people ordinarily if you just stayed in your day-to-day loop, as it were?
And so
Yeah.
many women, impressive
Yeah.
women at the same place at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'd say this is why I'm really looking forward to talking to more people that were competing in this, because like you say, you've got such a vast variety of characters from all different kinds of backgrounds. And okay, yeah, you've got some actual racing drivers in there, but they're kind of a secondary interest, if I'm going to be bold enough to say that, because you're like, what's bringing all these other people in here when, like yourself, you yes, you worked in motorsport, but if this rally didn't exist, when would you have maybe made that jump, if at all, and maybe you would have just stayed as a pipe dream.
No, of course. I mean, with my job, I always meet women working in motorsport. A lot of riders, a lot of drivers, impressive, all of them. But I think it's also the entire vibe of the event that makes it special. It's not a normal motorsport event. It's far from being that. So yeah, it's something different. It's something definitely special, more special than a lot of other events. That is very
And if we're going
difficult
back
to
next year and going, like, I've got to beat P14 now.
100%. Like I already asked the organizer, like, so when is it next year? And they said I can communicate because the Ramadan is changing. So I said I'm definitely returning next year. Yes.
Just let me know. Just let me know and I'll be there.
Yes. So Constance, my co-pilot, we are basically neighbors. We met at the kindergarten of our children because we both have 2 daughters each. So we
That
are
was
moms.
not where I thought that was going.
Oh, yes. Yes. So this is actually for us is quite a funny story because we are both moms and, we were like the mommy team that are like fighting. But yeah, she's a medical student. She's finishing this year. So this is where what I mean is that no matter what your standard is at home, it doesn't matter. Just dare to do it and you will not regret it.
So I've got to ask them one last thing then. Was there a bit of a weird moment for you or both of you then when you're standing there in the desert next to the car about to go racing for a stage and you know how you know each other and you're trying to figure out how you went from that to where you are in that moment and going, how did we end up here again?
Yes, we actually had this starting the plane. We're like, we're actually doing it. We're actually doing it. So we were, both of us, like, we're actually doing it. We arrived there, it's like, we're actually here. What? It was like,
Went from a fun
us
conversation to we're in the desert.
it actually took us a little bit of time. Like, our husbands, they didn't believe us when we came back from the restaurant going to a rally. They were like, yes, sure. And then, this is like, oh, they're actually going to the rally. And then when
They're packing now. They're leaving. They're going.
Exactly. And when we showed them the standings and where we were in our category, they're like, oh, okay. So,
that must be quite satisfying as well, though.
It is.
Yeah. I don't think there's no better point to leave that on. I think that's perfect. So again, thank you very much for taking the time to chat. And yeah, I'm going to be paying attention to the bike championship and then seeing you there next year. I don't know how you have time for it all, but I love that you make it work. Thank you again to Carina for taking the time to chat. Wishing her the best of luck for everything in 2024. Details of where you can find both Carina and I on social media and everywhere else will be in the description of this episode, so do go and check that out. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again soon.